is where I stopped yesterday. I know it was very rushed. Okay, and I was trying to tell you about how production plants that different companies can have different organizations or different models by which they run their production plants. The idea, however, remember yesterday I asked you to compare and think about and tell me which one you think is more global, more transnational. Now what I mean by that, and if you want to, you also can write this down. What I mean by that, when I say more global or more transnational, is this idea that it involves, Mr. Kathy, it involves more countries in an integrated way, in an interdependent way. So when we use the term globalization or when we say transnational in nature, we are saying, are these production plants, are they integrated, are they interdependent? So if I just look at the two diagrams up here, do they look very interdependent and integrated? Do they look interdependent? Not really, right? This one, not very integrated, right? Or interdependent, because where does production take place? All production takes place in one country only. Remember I told you big square stands for a country, all these small squares stands for a production unit. And so this model is one where production takes place all in one country, then after that just send out, just export to another country. So not very integrated, not very interdependent. Another model could be slightly more global in nature in the sense that it does involve more countries in production. You can write down this description next to it. Involves more countries in production, correct? Because now I see that production units occur in 4 different countries. However, is there any transfer of products over the national boundary? No, right? It is just production for the national market in which the production is located. That's what the caption is saying. It produces and serves the national market in which it is located. So no interaction at all, right? Across the countries. So not very integrated in nature. So what we're saying here, how is this linked to TNCs, is that for some TNCs, you find that although they are a TNC, they may still have this kind of a pattern, potentially, but quite unlikely, okay? Quite unlikely. Okay, I need to show you what is considered not very integrated so you can understand what is very integrated. Okay, you understand what I'm saying? Okay, so the next set, now this one, however, okay, this one, however, is what we call a product specialization for a global or regional market. So in this one, there is some level of product specialization, meaning one production unit, they specialize in a certain type of product. Okay, and to a certain extent, they only cater to a specific regional market of several countries. And so what you see is that there is more cross-boundary flows. Okay, so because each unit specializes in one product, it also therefore means, it doesn't mean that therefore the other countries don't have this demand, they do. And so therefore, since each country specializes on its own, then there is a need for us to exchange, okay? So this is a little bit more integrated, a bit more interdependent. You make your own product, then we exchange, okay? So maybe, for example, all sleepy people, please sit up. You'll be very warm or something. Yes, huh? Okay, I'll go and, I think there's something wrong with it. Okay, listen carefully first, listen and I'm going to tell. Okay. Just listen first and I'm going to adjust it, okay? Each country specializes in one type of product, but it doesn't mean that, for example, this country also needs this product, just that it doesn't make it. So what do? They exchange. Okay? And similarly for the other countries as well. Okay, so that's what we're saying. Now, however, this is the one that we want to focus on. So while I'm adjusting, you can try to understand it a little bit and try to think about why is it that this one is a bit more transnational in nature. increase the fan speed. I'm not sure whether it's going to work. You see? Because I do feel that it's a bit warm. Okay, now, how do you read this? What is important is, can I get you to circle, highlight, or underline this part where it says each production unit performs a separate part of a production sequence. Sleepy people, highlight, move your hands, okay? Not just sit there and pass through the customs to dreamland. Okay. Okay? So, what does this mean? Each production unit performs a separate part of a production sequence. Means that what? Are they interdependent? Yes, right? Because if I don't make this part, you can number them if you like. You can number this 1, 2, 3, and down here you put 1 plus 2 plus 3. What? Miss Chu? AJ Math. If only AJ Math is like that, then. Yeah, lor. Okay, so what do I mean? It's part of a production sequence. So it shows interdependence, right? So what we're saying here is that each unit, so each country does one part of the sequence. Okay? And 1 will pass to 2, 2 will pass to 3, and only here they will then do a assembly. They tie everything together to get a final product. So is this interdependent? Yes, a lot more. Okay? The question, however, some of you will ask is, Aiyo, why so leceh? Why do you want to do that? Right? Because you need to understand, ladies and gentlemen, that when we are making a complicated product, okay, not something like stapling orientation booklets. You know, that kind is like, you know, it's, of course, geographically proximate is easier, correct? But we are talking about complex products, and each part, like for example, a car. Okay, a car is made up of many, many different parts, just that we don't know. So for example, windscreen wiper. To us, it looks like just a windscreen wiper. But then you need to understand your windscreen wiper actually needs some kind of wiring. If not, it cannot connect, right, to your car engine, so on and so forth. So you might find that a certain country, and then you need to start to think about how production costs in different countries differ. So this country, for example, may make, say, the wiper, or maybe it makes the wiring, all the cabling required in the car. This one may make all the different hardware, just the outside, the shell of the car. This one may make the engine, etc. But each of these parts, you notice, requires a different set of skills. And that's why I may want to locate them in different countries and tap the difference in cost. Do you get what I mean? So at the end of the day, for any country to make the decision to do this, you are very sure, you can be assured that definitely they did this to profit maximize. Okay? And then after that, eventually they will collate everything together. So this is one way. Another way, of course, is again, the country does a separate part of the process, but it is not like a chain-like sequence. So this one, maybe in terms of interdependence, is a bit lesser, but you still find that there is some level of integration because all of them still need to send it back to one final assembly point. Can you get the idea? Now I need you to understand this because then later on when I talk about impacts, it makes sense. So the other idea you want to try to think about is vertical integration. Vertical integration, which I will briefly talk about it again later on. Vertical integration talks about how in making a product you have a sequence. So how well connected is that sequence? That means from step 1 to step 5, for example. How do you link it up, and which countries do you go to link it up? Okay, so most TNCs that we see nowadays have this model. Okay, they run this model where they split up their entire sequence of events in making their product into different countries so as to tap the locational advantages of different countries in order to lower costs overall. And then after that, they just have an assembly point to assemble things together. Okay? Can? Okay, so that's the nature of branch plants that you see. Okay, so I'm done with this set of notes. Can you please take out impacts, and I'll move on to impacts.